Hi, I'm Christopher Warnock of Renaissance Astrology, and today I'm going to talk about love talismans, and in particular, our new next edition of Plus 10 Venus Wing Talismans. Very cool. So, when we look at the, talismans in terms of popularity, probably wealth is number one, protection is probably number two, and then love talismans, definitely number three. Very popular. People are looking for love and or need a boost in their relationships, and therefore they're looking for love talismans. So, without a doubt, Venus is the traditional planet we look to for love. This is Venus's natural rulership. Picatrix, this is Book 3, Chapter 7, says, "Seek from Venus all things that pertain to her, such as generally everything pertaining to love." So really, when we're looking at talismans, we're looking at the natural rulership of something. We're really going to, like I said, Venus is going to be our focus as a planet. Now, modern astrology, very different approach. I've seen lots of different planets that are posited as far as being love talismans. People have all sorts of different ideas about what are love talismans. Another thing people do is they start looking at the houses that are associated with love, which are different in between medieval Renaissance and modern astrology, and they start looking at those. So, for example, if you had Saturn in the seventh house, then people would say, well, that's a love talisman for you. Okay, very much of a different approach. Again, I don't want to say that that's a wrong approach. It's just a different way. The modern astrology is much more free form and sort of mix and match. And, that's how they go with that. But definitely, if you're talking about planets in the medieval Renaissance, we're definitely going to be looking at Venus. So Venus talismans, if we're thinking about Venus and her natural rulership, again, love, but we need to have a broader ambit too, because Venus is going to be love, also friendship, pleasure, entertainment, arts, creativity, eloquence, all these sort of things kind of go along with Venus. Venus is typically not a money talisman. Venus likes to spend money, but Venus, and we'll talk a little bit about an exception to that, but typically Venus is all about spending money and enjoying spending the money, not really getting the money. So, and all sorts of different things like, the colors that are associated with Venus. It's a little easier. So, for example, with Saturn is almost always black. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, gray, things like that. The sun is yellow, bright, saffron. Mars, red. Venus is one of those ones that's a little more complicated to figure out. A green, white, pink, lots of different colors associated with Venus. So really, with a Venus talisman, again, we're usually going to be thinking about love. And so the new talisman I want to talk about is our winged Venus talisman. Let me just show you the image of that. Really beautiful image. This is a Nigel Jackson image. This is specifically from Picatrix. And these talismans are optimized for love, peace, and beauty, which is exactly what we'd expect for a Venus. But this is very unusual because this specific image, Picatrix says that the user of this talisman will not suffer loss or injury. So again, you would not in any way associate protection with the standard, a rulership of Venus. But this particular talisman, again, coming from Picatrix, which is our authority for this, is, like I said, love, peace, and beauty, and protection. So no loss and no injury. So very useful. I think a really nice bonus to it. Really gorgeous image. You can see it's, again, there's a winged Venus with two boys. I think these are sort of drawn as sort of putti, like the, with Eros, which makes, again, is a perfect thing to go with, complement for Venus. Nigel's drawn these in a very sort of, it's almost like a Persian miniature style. I think, again, this is a really gorgeous image. One of the things about Renaissance astrology is that we provide consecration images with our talismans. And so the function of these is, and again, it's optional for you. We have a very devotional style. So when you're doing the talisman invocation, again, very traditional, you light candles and you move the talisman through the smoke of the incense, you light the incense. But then another thing you can add to it is this contemplation and meditation on this particular image. And so what's interesting about it is that if you think of the talisman as being like a battery or energy, it kind of doesn't make sense to be thinking about this meditation stuff. But if you're coming at it from an occult virtue standpoint, or from a more traditional standpoint, and you're trying to connect with the underlying Platonic idea that's embodied by the planet, then the image is very useful. That image speaks 1,000 words. I mean, Nigel, who created these images, frequently said to me that he did not feel like the ego self, his ego self, was the one that was creating the image. He felt like he was manifesting this from the world of images, from the world soul. And so these are thoughts of the world soul. They're connected to this whole. So this is an image, like I said, of love, beauty, and peace, but also of protection from loss and injury. And so by meditating on this image, by manifesting this image in your mind, you're then causing yourself a connection, again, from your soul, the soul image in your soul with the soul of the world. So again, very powerful, very useful part of the consecration. And what's nice about the image is that it's very beautiful. Now you could actually use a striking image. It doesn't have to be beautiful, but that's my preference as far as doing these images, that it's going to have the greatest effect and the greatest resonance if it connects with you. And I like to connect in a beautiful way, and of course that's appropriate for Venus. Now another thing I want to talk about, let me just show you what the talisman looks like. You can see that this got the winged Venus here on the front of the talisman. Gorgeous bronze talisman. What's really interesting about these talismans is these are +10 in essential dignity. So it's not possible for it to be any stronger than this. And you can get a stronger talisman in terms of, perhaps if you had, Venus day and hour. You could do Kazemi. You could do maybe Exalted. But in terms of essential dignity, +10 is as good as you can get. And we're really, I'm kind of excited about the fact that we now have 3 different sets of talismans that are +10, which is so the maximum possible essential dignity. You can't get stronger than essential dignity. Now, I don't want to overemphasize essential dignity because I've had people say, I won't buy anything but +10. That's locking yourself out of having the benefits of the planet. But if you're going to get a Venus talisman, hey, why not go ahead and get the bonus of that, having that extra power, extra strength of the Venus talisman. In terms of getting a Venus talisman, let me just talk about some of the other Venus talismans that we have. This is the second of our +10 Venus talismans. This is the Venus apple talisman. Classic, again, the woman holding the apple in one hand and the comb in the other. This image recurs in Picatrix and is found in these older sources, these lapidary sources, even going back to the classical period, that are tied into the image of Venus. And again, these are images that are part of that esoteric heritage, and that Picatrix has come in and then supercharged. This one's talking about essential dignity that you'll typically have in the classical sources. They might say Venus, and a woman holding an apple and comb. And Picatrix takes those and says, okay, let's go ahead and have maximum, essential dignity that we can get. Let's have it rising or culminating, and let's have it the planetary hour of the planet. So let's maximize a time to make this talisman when all the powers of that planet are maximized. And then drawing on this incredible heritage of these images that are, as I said, coming from the Elam El Mithal, coming from the world soul, manifesting in our esoteric heritage. I think typically from dreams and visions. Again, I'm not an academic. I'm not a materialist that thinks that humans created everything and that we're just sort of these meat tubes walking around making everything up. This is a modern approach. The traditional approach is to see us as part of this spiritual unity, and to see that unity in particularly, not just in material form, which is going to be less perfect, but in form, and particularly in beautiful forms. Because again, if you see beauty, and you really are raised up to the divine through this sight of beauty, and who better for that than Venus? So the Venus apple talisman, let me just show you what that looks like in the bronze version of it. You can see it there. Again, Venus apple with a comb in one hand and the apple in the other. These are also +10 talismans, and you can see the links for all the talismans that I mentioned at the bottom of the page. And the final one I want to mention to you, again, also +10, is the Venus Three Graces talisman. Now, this is a kind of exciting talisman. Again, Picatrix image calls for 3 women embracing each other. And what's cool about this talisman is that also, again, love, beauty, peace, great love talisman, just like the Venus apple talisman or the Venus wing talisman. But this one, interestingly enough, is for gain, so it's a wealth talisman as well. It's like I said, Venus usually is about spending money. This talisman is actually good for gaining money as well as the other Venus qualities, like I said, love, peace, friendship, arts and creativity. And what I love about this is that Renaissance astrology. This is an image from Botticelli's Primavera from spring of the three graces. And again, it perfectly fits that in terms of women embracing each other and is very much in tune with the image. So it's a gorgeous image to meditate. Just meditating on this is such a joy for me. It really lifts me up and again connects us to these Platonic ideas manifesting as occult virtues through these specific images. So again, let me just show you the three graces. You can see the image on the bronze talisman, really gorgeous. And a talisman. All these talismans, all these Venus talismans are very popular. People are really happy with them and have been buying them in large numbers. So Venus, very cool. So let's talk a little bit about whether Venus talisman is going to be a compatible choice for you. So one thing you can look into, I mean, traditionally wouldn't necessarily look at the birth chart, but it makes sense to me. Modern astrology are very focused on it, so it's natural to them. I think it makes sense. Really what I'm looking at is to see how compatible you are with Venus. And so I'm not looking at the house placement. I'm not looking at aspects. I'm really just looking at essential dignity as an initial guide. And so, for example, if your natal Venus and your birth chart is in Taurus, Libra, or Pisces, Taurus or Libra, which are the signs of Venus, or Pisces, which is the exaltation, a Venus talisman is going to be a great choice for you, regardless of what else is going on with houses or anything like that, aspects, anything like that, even if they're retrograde. Not a problem at all. It's a good choice. If your natal Venus is in Aries, Scorpio, or Virgo, that is in detriment or fall, then again, that's a question mark. So I'll talk a little about that. That's just kind of putting a yellow flag on it. Doesn't mean disaster, just a sort of question mark. Now, Venus in any other sign, as long as she's not combust, which is within 8.5 degrees of the sun, or retrograde, without either of those without essential dignity, then you're fine. So in other words, if Venus is just peregrine, or if Venus is combust and dignified by triplicity, or retrograde and say dignified by sign, then again, those are good choices. So if Venus for some reason was afflicted under this, what I would say is that maybe you want to look at another talisman, but if you really want to do Venus, if you want to check it out, what we can do is do a divination. I typically do like an online I Ching divination. And that gives us a very close take on a specific talisman. If you say, I really like this Venus wing talisman, this is a good choice for me, even though my Venus is in Scorpio, then I can do an I Ching reading and check that out for you. So if you want me to check your chart for talisman compatibility, I'm happy to do that. But what I ask you is to make sure you're serious about buying other talismans. Okay, check them out, see what the prices are, and you say, you know what, I'm interested in buying these. I'd like you to take a look, because every time I do this, it's like a little mini reading, and I'm happy to do that as long as you're serious about actually getting a Renaissance astrology talisman. So again, you can see the contact page there, link on the below on the YouTube page. Send me an email with your date of birth. No need to send me your chart or anything, just send me your date of birth. And then I can give you the suggestions for talisman compatibility. And also I can check, for example, like I said, if you're saying, no, I really want to get this Venus talisman, but I'm concerned about Venus, I can do a divination if that's necessary for that. So one thing, again, I would ask you about this is please do not be buying talismans and then emailing me to say, check my chart, because it costs me to do refunds. I don't do refunds normally. You keep switching stuff around. It's problematic. This is a small operation. It's not Amazon. We have to do everything by hand. It causes a lot of trouble. So the best thing to do is if you just email me, let's discuss it before you order. But if you're sure you want to get one, go ahead. I don't want to get in the way of anyone doing any orders. But like I said, if you're thinking that you might want to have your talisman, your chart checked, let's do that first before you start ordering any talismans, because that can get into a big mess. So like I said, if Venus is afflicted in your natal chart, again, like I said, we can do the divination. But even so, like I said, there's plenty of people that have had good results from having a planet afflicted in their natal chart, but still get good results for it. The other thing we can do, though, is we have a full toolkit. See, again, in modern astrology, it's planet, planet, planet. I mean, people are sort of just discovering fixed stars. But in medieval Renaissance astrology, we have a tremendous amount of choices of different astrological factors that we can look at for different effects. And love is a really wonderful example of how great it is we can go beyond. Because like I said, if Venus is afflicted and you don't want to work with Venus, or the divination comes back, don't work with Venus, if you're just with planets, you're out of luck. Now with a well talisman, you'd have more options, but planets for love, that's just Venus. But we don't have to be limited to Venus. We've got mansions of the moon, and we've got constellations and fixed stars. So very cool. mansions of the moon, 28 mansions of the moon. It's like a lunar zodiac move. You can check that out on my mansions page. There is a link to that. There are multiple mansions for love. So that's a really great option. And so the two that we have available now, and we try to keep in stock, are the 13th mansion and the 26th mansion. And so let me give you an example. Let me show you the image for this is the 13th mansion. Okay, now, as you can see from the image, this is a mansion that has a sort of erotic focus. So there's a sex focus, but then love as well. Okay, this is not just a wild sex, one night stand talisman. This is a focus on love and improving sex and enjoyable sex in a loving relationship. So the love component is definitely there, but there's definitely a sexual focus. So let me just show you that gorgeous image, fabulous, and let me just show you the talismanic image there. Great. Very cool. These are excellent talismans, 13th mansion. And then the other mansion for love is the 26th mansion. And this is, again, this has got sex as well, but the love focus is first. So it's really kind of like how the images hit you. You can take a look at these. I mean, to me, intuition is really the best way to make a choice here. I mean, because people will come to me and they'll say, which is best for me based on my chart? And I can say, well, it's compatible, but I can't choose between Venus talismans, and say, well, the best, I could say that, but it wouldn't be true. I mean, I don't see any way to determine. You can make something up or look for synchronicities or whatever, but saying, yeah, there's some sort of scientific astrological way of determining it, I don't see how to do that. That's just my opinion. But you see how these hit you. Like I said, if you're saying, no, I want to focus on love, you're not going to be cutting out sex if you just go with the 26th mansion. Same thing with the 13th mansion. Again, if you're saying, well, I kind of like to improve my sex life or whatever, I'm kind of focused on that, but I'm interested in love, also a good mansion, or just for love in general. Really the question is, how does it hit you? What's the resonance with you? What's your intuition? That's always my main focus in terms of these. And this has got a really beautiful image here for the 26th mansion of the moon. Gorgeous. So those are really good choices, both the 13th and 26th mansion for love. And the most recently we started working on these, and these are really new, very, very cutting edge. What's happening in modern astrology now is people are starting to recognize that in the medieval Renaissance astrology that there's other astrological factors. So something people are getting excited about and getting into. And the fixed stars are really an area that's very cutting edge. I've noticed that. I would, 10 years ago, if I mentioned fixed stars, people would be like, oh, I've never heard of that. Now people are like, oh yeah, I'm really excited about fixed stars. I know about them and I'm really interested in doing fixed star talismans. So along with fixed star talismans, we have constellations. Now, constellations are made up of fixed stars, very much in our traditional sources treated like a fixed star talisman, a constellation talisman. And we have a couple constellation talismans that are really highly recommended for love. And so the first of these is the constellation Andromeda. And I just love this image. I think this is a really, really gorgeous image. And I really enjoy having this as both the image for contemplation, but also this is the image of the talisman Andromeda, of the constellation. Now what's really cool about Andromeda is I would basically call this a super love talisman. It's very powerful. It's particularly good for reconciliation. If there's been problems in a relationship, this helps people come back together. But also really a very, very strong love talisman. Like I said, we've been kind of billing these as a super love talisman. So that's Andromeda, definitely excellent choice. Check those out. And then the next one, and this is the final talisman we're going to take a look at, is Cygnus the Swan. And Cygnus the Swan is really cool. Again, the same image here for the contemplation as on the talisman. I think this is just a gorgeous, you can see the swan there. It fits so perfectly, that circular image into it. Just a really fabulous image. Cygnus the Swan is for love, but for riches, for health, and knowledge. This is one of those rare talismans that has this multi-factor influence, does a wide variety of things. And these have been really, been popular. We've been selling a lot of these Cygnus talismans. So those are some options as well. So like I said, you've got if the Venus talisman is really, again, afflicted, or you say, I don't really resonate with that, or look at something else, We've got a lot of other options. And this is one of the things I love about medieval Renaissance astrological magic is we have such a full toolkit. We have so many choices. We have so many things to look at. And again, if you're looking for guidance and in terms of buying a love talisman, you can email me and I can guide you as far as doing that. So I just thought part of what brought this on was I just basically today got this great testimonial from somebody who had gotten a 13th mansion talisman. So let me just read this to you. This says, "Hi Chris, I consecrated the 13th mansion talisman you sent me in August on September 2nd during the 13th mansion of the moon." And he said, "Wouldn't you know, 2 days later, September 4th, I accidentally run into a lady friend of mine I've been pining over for 10 years and found out she's getting a divorce." He said, "We talked at length at a coffee shop and ended up making plans to move in together as a mutually supportive situation." It says, so I just, this to me is, again, people ask me about what typical effects are of the love talisman. And this is, I think, really classic. You get contact with an old flame is something that I've repeatedly had people, come back to me and talk about. So, again, it's sort of like almost like the psychic connection is being reactivated, So running into somebody like an old flame like this person did or being contacted by them is really, really typical with love talismans and Venus talismans. Another thing that people report with Venus talismans is that very much increased ease in social settings. So they're relaxed, they're having more fun, things are going easily, they're talking to people, they're not tense, and that people that are attracted to them are attracted to them. So if this mutual attraction is being set up. So these are, again, really, I think, typical, effects for Venus talismans. People will ask me about, well, I want my boyfriend back, or I want my girlfriend back, I want this talisman to do that. That is, you can ask for that. You can pretty much ask for anything within the ambit of the spirit and you can ask for specific stuff, but that one I don't think you're going to get. Typically the more specific of effect you're asking for, the less chances are you are of getting it. I think really it's much better to ask for love in general. But the idea that I'm going to buy this talisman and I'm going to get this person back, I think is unrealistic. You could try it, but I certainly wouldn't want to be saying to anybody, I guarantee that happen, or it's even likely to happen. I think it's actually unlikely. The other thing I would say about it is in terms of effects, you need to have some sort of practical channel for it to manifest. If you're staying in your apartment, you never go out, like you never take a bath, you're really obnoxious or whatever. I don't think you're going to, this relationship's not going to magically appear. You need to be able to be kind of, again, same thing with making money. If you buy a talisman and expect that you're going to win the lottery or gold is going to materialize out of nowhere, I think you're going to be disappointed. If you had a business, online business, and your sales bopped up 10%, again, that's I think a reasonable effect. Now, another thing I would say about effects, and this is sort of, I think, true in general, is that I have a devotional approach. And so my focus here is on the relationship with the celestial angels, not on, I'm going to get something out of it. It's like a friendship. If you become friends with somebody, you can get great things from a friendship, but it's not going to work if you're like, oh, I just want to get something out of this person, and that's why I'm going to be friends with them. Not going to be very effective in terms of being friends. And one of the things I would say about the talismans is that, again, building up that relationship is allowing you to basically be in the presence of the spirits. So the more time you spend in Venus's presence, the more time you get the atmosphere, the more time you hang out with her, the more you are going to be affected by it, the more you're going to be transformed, and the more loving you are going to be, the more open to love you are. So rather than saying, okay, I'm going to change the outside world to conform to me, which can happen, but it's more going to be erratic. The miraculous stuff happens, but it's very unpredictable. The inner transformation is really important as well, and allowing the inner Venus, everyone has all the planets and celestial factors inside them, allowing these same inner planets with these occult virtues to resonate and to become transformed and to blossom, so to speak, is, I think, a very positive effect of the talismans. It's a self-improvement as much as it is much more than, I think, going out and trying to force the rest of the world to conform to our desires and to get what we want. But what I would say about it is that if you're too focused on effects, I don't think you get as effective effects. I think if you're relaxed about the effects, if you're open to what's going to happen, if you're just, this is an exciting odyssey for you, you're enjoying the process, you're going to have better effects in the long run. The whole Zen thing about, if you think about effects, you're, I think, going to tamp them down. And I think that you really have to be ready for nothing to happen, okay? That there really has to be an acceptance of, I could try this and I'm not going to get any discernible effects. If with that acceptance and with the openness to the possibilities and the enjoyment of the process of divination, I mean, it's incredible to me. People will create these, consecration. People will create these incredible altars. People send me pictures and they're just gorgeous, and you can see the creativity and the enjoyment and the really positive vibes that have gone into them. And that really shows, again, your devotion to the celestial angel you're working with. And it's inspiring. It's uplifting. I think these are all really positive things to go about it. So I'm very excited about it. I do, a daily practice. I have a daily planetary practice. So, on Friday I'm always doing Venus. Venus is Fridays. That's her day. And so, I have a very close relationship with all the 7 planets, and I can see the positive effect of Venus in my life. Since I'm such a Saturnine person, Venus is a very positive, balancing quality to have in my life. So very excited about it. So check out all of our Venus talismans. I've got links to all the ones I mentioned today, in particular the new Venus Wing Plus 10 talismans. If you're looking at this too long after September of 2024, may well have these sold out. So check them out. Also take a look at the mansion talismans, the 13th mansion, the 26th mansion, as well as the Constellation, Andromeda, and Cygnus talismans. So beautiful talismans, a very exciting way of proceeding with your devotional practice or with your and the effects. And I think that this just shows that there's a lot of different ways to accomplish your purpose. And what I would say about it is really, again, let your intuition guide you. See what path resonates for you. Again, and if you think, that whatever, that Saturn's a love talisman for you, that's great. Go ahead and do that. I mean, we've got plenty of Saturn talismans as well. I really want the Renaissance Astrology website and talismans to operate, kind of as a, for everybody. And so, but again, if you're interested in my approach, I'm happy to share that with you. If you've got your own approach, follow that as well. But lots of different ways to get love, lots of different ways to work with love talismans. So I'm sure you can find something that excites you, inspires you, uplifts you, and I'm really happy to provide these. So check them out, and I'll be looking forward to doing more videos.